Hey guys, my name's Nathan. This is Isaac, and you're here for our very first episode of Anotherblock Studios. We're excited to bring you weekly interviews with Web3 startups, with founding team members of NFT-related music royalty platforms. And come with us on the journey to learn more about music, to learn more about how that relates to investment and NFTs and earning interest on royalties. And so we're excited to bring you up-to-date content, stuff that's going to be relevant and interesting to you, and stuff that you might not be able to find anywhere else. So, Isaac, I was just thinking about exactly how to start this interview. And so we're excited to bring you an interview with the CEO of Anotherblock in not too long. But before we do, we thought we might lay the scene, present the scene, lay out the landscape of exactly what it looks like here in the NFT music world. And so if you set your minds back to the digital revolution, right, it brought together music and technology. And so the 2000s dot-com bubble saw global music distribution become a reality. And so some interesting names that you might remember when you were 3 is Napster. You ever heard of Napster?
Napster, yeah.
Napster?
Napster.
Yep. So they're like they're a free music streaming service, right? And so there's another one that I looked at called LimeWire. Okay.
Yeah, it's a classic.
So LimeWire is a classic, just peer-to-peer file sharing service.
Yes, some would call it a virus sharing service.
Right. And so they actually discontinued in 2010, but I was like, let me look into them. And it turns out they're relaunching a digital collectibles marketplace for art and entertainment with a focus on music. So we might have to get one of their founders on here. And they've got a token. It's called LMWR token, LimeWire token. And so they were established in Q3 2021, and they're due to officially launch in May this year, which is this month.
It's exciting.
How
it's
wild
very
is that?
exciting. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so there's legacy companies like Napster, LimeWire, DC++, so basically what happens there is record labels and retailers create an element of exclusivity around the distribution of music. And so artists don't have access to their fans, essentially. And so the success is all hinders on whether or not they can distribute their music. And so previously, artists are just forced to go to labels with their music, right? And so the marketing required was a big budget. Initially, it was stuff like TV, posters, magazines. The digital revolution changed that towards YouTube and now TikTok and stuff like that, social media platforms, right? So downloading then turned into streaming, and we see platforms like Apple Music, Spotify, etc., right? And so platforms take around 30% of the revenue generated via the streaming, and the rest of that revenue seems to go towards record labels, okay? And so this is the thing that we're trying to fix, the thing that we're trying to solve. And so in this situation, artists are forced to monetize their music through live shows, events, merchandise, and now NFTs. And so initially, what we might call 2021 NFTs only saw ownership on the blockchain, which is restricted just to the ecosystem there. And so there were some use cases for this. So there's select few who could make big dollars from it. They had to have an established following, an established brand, and potentially connections with NFT whales, right? And so this is not democratization of music. This is just another additional income stream for people who are already incumbent in the industry. And so one option, which I think is interesting, is companies such as Audius. So Audius are attempting to bring streaming onto the Web3 ecosystem, right? And so the problem with that, or the requirement for success, is that music consumers must all join the platform. And for them to do that, the promise of a comprehensive and competitively priced catalog needs to exist. And so it's kind of a chicken before the egg situation. And so potentially they may remain just a niche product. So then the solution there appears to be Web3 music rights. And that's what we're here to talk about. And this is what Anotherblock and our platform is all about. So the traditional focus in the industry was on creation and distribution of music. But now focus now we're essentially trying to turn focus towards the ownership. So some notable NFT-related situations, or I guess instances in the last little while, is Death Row Records, right? Have you ever heard of them?
Yeah, absolutely.
So
Yeah.
Death Row Records are known for artists like Snoop Dogg, Dr. Dre, Tupac. But then there were some issues with Tupac's death. There were some people going to prison. And so at the height of what they were doing, they were making $100 million USD a year. But they went bankrupt in 2006. And so they were sold several times. And then in February, Snoop Dogg bought the label and he's turning it into an NFT label, right? Selling it all off. That's kind of interesting. Grimes did a similar thing where she sold an NFT collection worth $9 million just in February. Kings of Leon, for example, generated $2 million USD from NFT sales of their most recent album, When You See Yourself. Yes.
Yeah.
And so there's a new wave of platforms that are allowing investors and collectors to invest in music rights and earn royalties through ownership. It enables people to invest in royalty-backed NFTs. And so it could potentially change the industry in a few ways. It provides financial upside to their favorite creators. It diversifies and obviously democratizes the ownership of those rights. It's not now just a select few. And also artists can just choose to fund their music directly from their fans. And so in regards to marketing, it also makes a lot of sense too, because now if the actual fans of particular music own the rights to make profit from the royalties, then they're going to naturally market. Word of mouth marketing will come back. And so it's an interesting situation. NFTs have the ability to potentially change music forever. And so we're excited to go on the journey and learn more about it.
Absolutely, I have to agree. In talking about the origins there,
Yes.
Nathan. So
Yes.
when we're thinking about NFTs, we're thinking about how did actually any of this come up? Because in the last year, we've seen so much hype around the NFT space.
Yeah.
And basically a year ago, people were kind of just learning what an NFT really was.
Including us.
So yeah, exactly. I mean, yeah,
Clueless.
exactly. So we were trying to kind of figure it out, and so if we take it all the way back to the origins of crypto, so in October 2008, the Bitcoin white paper was released by Satoshi Nakamoto, the pseudonym for the creator of Bitcoin. The original mint date of Bitcoin was 2009, and in 2012 there was actually a paper which introduced the idea of colored coins. Now this is the first instance of an NFT, which is actually it was the concept of this layer 2 solution which goes on the Bitcoin blockchain, and actually it adds that layer 2, and it's a method for managing real world assets on the Bitcoin blockchain.
Gotcha.
And so basically that idea actually never properly came to fruition.
Yeah.
And the first NFT that I could actually find, which happened to release on the 3rd of May 2014, which is 8 years ago now.
Yeah, wow.
And that was actually a project called
Was that
Quantum.
Did you just do public math?
I did do public math, yes. That's right. And I did it well. And so, yeah, that one launched. And so that was on the Namecoin blockchain, which I haven't actually heard of.
Namecoin, I've never heard of it.
But basically, it was a pixelated octagon that looks like an octopus.
Really?
And,
8 years ago?
That's right, 8 years ago. So that was the first instance. I imagine it wasn't particularly popular.
No, I wouldn't say so.
I mean, but it's the first. It's an
go.
innovator. So you got to take a little while before these things catch on.
Yeah.
And speaking of catching on, we actually saw the shift happen in kind of 2017 towards more NFT projects being slowly launched, slowly catching on. And that was actually when Ethereum set up token standards, which allowed developers to actually step in and create those projects.
Yes.
So if we look at the OG Ethereum kind of token is ERC20, right?
Yes,
so
that's
it's the standard fungible interchangeable token.
Yes.
Because as we know, fungible is just perfectly standardized.
Interchangeable.
Normal. Yeah, interchangeable. That's right.
Yeah.
And then we saw ERC 721, which is the standard interface for the non-fungible tokens. So
So my understanding is, I'm just doing the classic thing where I interrupt.
No.
But my understanding is that Ethereum was created before they created the ERC20 standardization, and so if you want to use a smart contract that uses ERC20 tokens, you have to wrap your Ethereum in WETH.
WETH. Yeah.
Weeth. I don't know how you say that.
Weeth. Yeah.
and that's
Ethan Weeth.
and that's the only way that you can get your Ethereum to actually interact with the ERC standard.
That would
ERC
be
20
how we
standard.
get interoperability. That's right.
To a certain extent.
Yeah. No, 100%. I believe that's correct.
Okay.
So that's what I know about wrapped tokens as well.
There you go.
So yeah, in ERC 721,
Yes.
which came out, so that's the standard non-fungible. So that's the that was the first iteration, I think, of non-fungible tokens.
Yep.
Which is it can be a deed for an artwork, it can be a song.
Yes. Well, we saw a lot of art initially, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of what we've seen there.
Yeah.
Then we've got ERC 777,
Yeah.
which is a bit more functionality on top of 721.
Yeah.
And then we've got ERC 1155, which allows for more efficient trading. It created utility tokens, which were like BNB. And non-fungible tokens like CryptoPunks. So
interesting.
Yeah, so it plays in a different kind of way in those tokens, right?
Okay. Right.
The next up we have OpenSea, which started in December 2017. So this is
2017.
Yeah, so this is kind of where the
been around for a while.
Yeah, and
I didn't know that.
And so that's kind of that's kind of during the period of Ethereum creating its different forms of tokenization.
Yes. Yeah.
And so that's kind of where that came from, I think.
Okay.
And so it's now considered to be the largest NFT marketplace.
Absolutely.
And in February 2021, they had a revenue of $95 million.
Wow.
But by December 2021, they hit a revenue of $2.75 billion.
That's crazy.
So in January 2022, they had a valuation of $13.3 billion as a company. So yeah, they're definitely considered the dominant NFT marketplace. That's a little understanding of the space.
Yeah, that's great.
In the previous week, we've seen market volumes of $472 million USD in the NFT space.
Okay.
So that's actually coming up a lot from what we've seen. There was actually
470 million.
Yeah, in USD. So.
Wow.
So it's a fair bit of volume now. So it's starting to come back a lot.
Crazy.
Because we saw a huge dip as it's a bit of an alternate asset class.
Oh, certainly.
We've actually seen a lot of it dip.
Yeah.
With certain economic pressures.
It's very volatile.
So one thing a lot of it ties back to is obviously the 10-year Treasury rate and everything like that. So when that usually goes up, there's usually a bit of a dip in alternative assets.
Yes.
So I think that the NFT market has sort of recovered from that, so it's on its way back up.
Yeah.
And speaking of a bit more history around NFTs, we all know that the most expensive NFT sold was People's Collage.
Yes.
That was
69 million.
69 million. That's right, and that was in March 2021.
Yes.
And
it's wild.
Yeah, and that was his big collage of 5,000 works of art, right?
Yes, he'd been doing it for X number of years, a long time.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. 13 years.
13 years.
He did that.
That's crazy.
And more recently, we saw Jack Dorsey's first tweet.
Yes,
selling for $2.9 million last year.
Correct.
Now that was listed for $48 million by the holder. But
as a secondary sale.
As a secondary sale, listed though.
Okay.
But it was the highest offer. Currently on that is $13,900.
That is not a good investment.
So yeah, obviously it goes both ways. There's huge advantages and huge disadvantages with the NFT space.
Careful,
but it's I think it's going to be incredibly interesting, and we're definitely excited to be doing this interview. So
so in a minute we're going to jump on with Michel, who's the CEO and one of the co-founders of Anotherblock, and so he was pumped to meet with us on this call, and so he's going to talk us through exactly what Anotherblock does, their place in this ecosystem, and what their goals are for the future. And so we're excited to see him in a second. He's going to be on here, and we'll have a chat. Okay, so we'll just ask you some questions and stuff, and a lot of it's based on what you've sent us because it's really great content we've got there, but maybe a little bit more about you, which you didn't include in your question. Yeah. So what's your background? What led you to starting Anotherblock?
So, I mean, my background is... It's traditional in the sense like where my business background is from. I went to some business schools. I worked within fintech for a long time. General like tech products. Yeah. But I have a music interest that comes a bit from my family side as well. So yeah, I grew up between Sweden and Burkina Faso in West Africa, and growing up there, actually, my father had like a big recording studio. So, early on, got introduced to the industry, recorded a few things that I'm probably never going to release because they're not good enough. but very interested in music. And yeah, during my time studying, I actually did some internships at some major labels as well, just getting to know the industry.
Wow.
And then, yeah, this idea came about, this opportunity, and it mixed, fintech, crypto, and music. So I just had to do it,
Yeah, you seem to be really well positioned to be in this space. So that's really cool. Is there any instruments that you play, or what's your go-to?
I do play the guitar. I mean, I'm not super good at it, but I can play some after party songs, obviously. Yeah, play at home sometimes. Yeah. So mainly the guitar. I play some drums, some djembe as well.
Amazing.
So yeah, a few different things.
So yeah, excellent. My question now is about, so we actually both really loved your article that you made about musicians gaining power through Web3.
Yep.
And I kind of wanted to talk about one of the issues was with the catalog problem versus so what everyone else in the music space is trying to do is build music streaming on the blockchain, whereas you guys are more focused on the intellectual property and the ownership. Can you talk about why it's more important to have that ownership side than it is to have to worry about the catalog and making a new Spotify, essentially?
Yeah. No, I mean, first of all, I just want to say that the ones who are trying to do streaming on chain, it's such a cool project and such cool projects, and there are more of them. And I really respect that. I think it's extremely cool, and if that works, it's going to be awesome. But I think the issue there is that for the longest of time, we've always wanted a lot to choose from. You need a big catalog to choose from if you're going to, use a streaming service, or if you go into a CD shop back in the day, you want to be able to choose. And I think that's mainly the issue that they have, and the what's going to be hard to bypass basically is how do you get that choice. So I think that in the short run, what's really important is if you really want to change the industry, you need to look at the ownership structures. So streaming is awesome. I think, right now it's about $13-14 billion of streaming revenue. It's about 500, million paid subscribers into the music. So money's coming in. Yeah. Spotify's taking their cut. And then, we have all of these discussions about, why aren't artists making more? And many people want to blame Spotify. I'm not, as sure. I mean, the only thing you could criticize them about is maybe the cut that they take. Yeah. But apart from that, the reason why not enough is trickling down to the artist is because of the ownership structures. And I really think that, if you go into the ownership structures and start doing things there, that's where you actually can really change where the money's flowing and make artists better off, basically.
Yeah, right. And so following on from that, why is the conversion of Web3 in this space been pivotal? Obviously, you could have probably tried to do something similar in a Web2 format, but what does Web3 bring to the platform that makes it so much more special?
Yeah, good question. I mean, we've thought a lot about this because actually the idea came about, we hadn't really decided what platform to do. And we just liked the thought of, why shouldn't I be able to buy a small piece of Bob Dylan's catalog, when it's sold, or exactly. Why shouldn't, and if I'm an independent artist, why shouldn't, people who listen to me be able to own the songs? And
totally.
I think that, I did a lot of research, obviously, into the space, and I saw a lot of good Web2 projects, but they were always very local. And in the end, they always, kind of focused more on garage bands in the end, I think. And I think that Web3 is really needed to make this actually happen on a bigger scale and to make people own music on a larger scale. And I pinpointed a few reasons as to why. I think the first one is that you already have a community of buyers globally out there. So you have an NFT community. Now you have an NFT that has a special utility, which means that, you get paid when the song is streamed. So, it's an easier sell, and it's a shorter step for them to take to see okay, I invested in NFTs. This is a new type of NFT. This is interesting. Let's do it. So I think that's a big important part that you actually tap into that market. But then you also have the trust. So I mean, if I saw a small company in South Africa, offering me the chance to invest in local music, I would be intrigued, but I'm not sure I would do it.
No, totally.
But just knowing that it is, within Web3 and that, it's on the blockchain, it probably gives a lot of trust to a lot of people. So I think that you still need to trust the entity doing it, but, having them working on a technology that you already trust, that basically helps also with the conversion. And then I think just, the music industry, like a key issue with the legacy industry has been, transparency for such a long time. And building on blockchain, it's all about transparency. Even, you see exactly what transactions have been done. It's all, it's all out there on the protocol. And I just think that, all of the premise for Web3 just fits so well into like creating a more transparent system in the music industry.
Yeah.
And the last reason that also is really important is that like, to me, or to us, or to everybody in the space, I guess, NFTs aren't just like a one-off thing. It's not like a one-off product. It's more like an organism, since it's just code. So that means that if we do an NFT today, off the bat, we won't have that many utilities. It's mainly going to be the royalty payouts and some few other things. But then obviously we're going to work on adding more and more cool stuff to this. So that means that if we do something 4 years from now, it's going to benefit the holder of today. Cool. So, and that wouldn't really be possible otherwise.
Yeah, that's definitely a huge advantage. So awesome. So we're talking about the kind of the new space that is kind of Web3 and NFTs and everything like that. And obviously Anotherblock hasn't been around too long, right? So you guys only founded pretty recently. What is kind of, when did you guys start, and what is how many people have like come on board since then? Because one thing I've noticed is there's a fair few people on the team, and
awesome.
There were maybe 13 when we started with you guys.
We were talking about on the Slack channel. That's our gauge.
Yeah,
right?
and then there were and now they're about 18. Today we saw 18. We were like, what's going on?
This thing's growing. This thing's growing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we're moving ahead fast. I think we started thinking about the idea and working on it early last year. And then it was in the summer that we really put our heads together, me and Philip and Sebastian, and we started forming the product. And we quickly decided, for all of the reasons I mentioned, that this needs to be on Web3, and that was why Sebastian was so key to come in as CTO as well. And then we really, really, really got going, this fall. And yeah, we've been growing a lot. I think we're about 12 full-time employees. So we're a bunch of consultants. Right now, like the core of the team is all in Stockholm, in Sweden.
Wow.
And the reason why is because, what we're doing now, it's such a creative phase. We really need to like figure out how to do things. It's not just an execution game where you see like, okay, this is how it's done in Silicon Valley. We need to just do it exactly the same here and find like awesome ex-bankers and consultants to execute. Like what we need to do, it's a lot more creative. So that's why I've really been pushing for, having a team local, that sits together, that, that just tries to solve really complex problems together.
Yeah.
But once we have like some sort of product market fit, then, I'm going to be happy to have a team that's spread out across the world when we actually know what we're doing.
We have to say we love the product market fit. So there's a classic tech founder.
And I feel like there's a great music energy in Sweden. Like we see some of your like Friday afternoon DJ sets, and it's like that is so cool. Like the space you've got there looks phenomenal. Yeah. So there's a good energy. So it feels good, Silicon Valley's not where it's at anymore. It's Stockholm, bro.
Stockholm, baby.
Yeah. And we have some, we need to do really well in order to be seen in the same conversation as, the awesome other products that are here, Spotify, Soundtrap, Epidemic Sound. Yeah.
It's true.
There's so many. SoundCloud, I mean, they're all from here.
Yeah, right. Interesting. Okay, so you mentioned Philip, one of your co-founders.
Yeah.
Is it just the two of you? Could you just give us the founding team really quickly and what their strengths are and what they bring to the team?
Yeah. So the founding team, basically, like how it started was that Philip, he's an awesome guy. He studied at the Stockholm School of Economics. He's just 21, and he actually got signed as an artist first. Wow. So So he got signed and he got a classic record label deal, which, in retrospect was kind of a good deal, but he thought it was kind of weird. Like, why should you give away so much of what you own? So he started putting himself together with some good people in the music industry. He started working on this, larger idea, like why can't people who listen to my music own it? Why can't I invest in this Shakira catalog that was sold? So he started working on this basic product, and then myself, I on the other side of Stockholm, I'd been working more into the Web3 space, and actually I was kind of actively looking into a way to start engaging and building something in the space. And so I actually met Philip. The first talk we had was more just to get to know each other. It was more like, I thought it was more of me giving feedback on the idea and my thoughts, because he knew that I was music interested and had some experience in like tech.
Okay.
But then I got completely sucked into the idea, and once I got sucked in, I said, I'm fully in if we do this in Web3, because I see some challenges in the Web2 space, but in Web3 I really think this could work. And then off the bat we just started working, and we started looking for a technical co-founder, and that's how we found Sebastian. We pulled him from Nasdaq, so
right.
Yeah,
that was good.
That's such a great hire. Yeah, that's
a good
so
find.
Cool.
Well done.
Yeah, that's so cool.
Yeah. I mean, he was a senior blockchain developer there, and I think he just wanted to ship things, and
I reckon they don't have as good a parties at Nasdaq, so I think there's a bit of incentive.
So,
I mean, we haven't been, so we don't know. But
I mean, they probably have a bigger budget for parties, but I think that we can, our parties are pretty good.
That's true.
Yeah, good stuff. Yeah. So speaking of kind of the platform, so you're building essentially an NFT platform as well. Mm-hmm. I have a question about OpenSea and kind of the way that they built like their platform. They've gone from almost nothing to over $2 billion a year in revenue. Do you have what are the kind of specific challenges around platform as a consumer service, and how do you see like building hype and building community? Like what are you thinking about marketing, and what are you thinking about building that actual use? Because that's what it is. It's a network, right? You have to.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, OpenSea, what they've done is just so impressive. I think now the challenge is, for me, like I was quite early into investing in crypto, but I was quite late into like the NFT space. So when I entered it, to me, it was kind of difficult to just get a grip on like what is a good NFT, what is not a good NFT, like what isn't it, like what is behind this JPEG, like is there actually an ownership? Like I had some really difficulties like wrapping my head around the whole space, actually. I think the one issue with OpenSea, like if you aren't a super user, is like, if you enter there's just so much, almost like the infrastructure right now of the whole space. So I think that for us, what's going to be important is to basically just take an opposite direction. Like we're focusing heavily on music. We just, at this first year, we're focusing on like the top 5% songs in the world. It's going to be heavily curated. If you're a new user to the space, or if you're, an avid NFT collector, it's going to be really clear, like, what's the value of this NFT? What are you buying? What song is this? So it's going to be very, very different in terms of experience, I'd say.
That's awesome. Okay, so obviously we're talking about a platform which is sort of like a marketplace. We've got people who are wanting to buy into albums, and then we've got, on the other side of that, we need albums or projects to sell or to distribute, right? To democratize. And so I guess, obviously, the stuff in the works, the stuff in the pipeline. Is there anything that you've locked in enough that you could share that you're excited about that could be seen on there soon?
I mean, I'm so excited. And I think that, like, one important thing that, it also goes back to the question earlier, like, what we're doing now to build hype and to build this up. I think that, like, what separates us, so there's a lot of ways you can come into this space and have this sort of idea of like democratizing music, and I think often many people come from like the artist side fully only, like we need to disrupt the label, right? We need to make sure that everybody goes directly to the fans, and that's a really cool value proposition, and I really respect that. But we come from that side, but also like the community side. We come from the side where it's like, why can't I own a part of All I Want for Christmas Is You?
Amazing.
Like we want to build a super strong collective of music owners and basically like slowly but surely give the power to them in the music industry. So we're working with, you know, artists, producers, songwriters, record labels, like anybody who will give us access to the best rights in the world. And then we're almost like a Robin Hood trying to like move ownership from them to this community. And I think that that aspect is actually kind of missing, and that's where we come in and like really like pinpoint what's a good song and, you know, try to give it to our community.
That's wild. That's amazing. And is there any names you can drop or not yet?
I mean, I can drop some names quite soon. I mean, let me see what I can drop. I mean, we've signed over 200 tracks. Some are like the biggest songs out there, I would say, and some big artists.
Particular genres, maybe? Is there something you focus on genre-wise?
Yes. So genre-wise, we're going to be good in the EDM space.
Okay.
I mean, if you just follow our channels, you'll see some really good EDM drops coming up in the weeks to come. But we're also focusing quite a lot on hip hop, actually. So we're working with some hip hop and R&B. So we're working with some really cool people in the States, and the plan is to start onboarding some of their content as well quite soon. And then we're talking, you know, very big artists as well.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So good.
That's great. And are you finding that you're reaching out more to labels, or are you able to actually, like, is that the way that you're getting the rights, or is it more that you can speak to producers, or you can speak to, like, what are the complexities? I know there's a lot of complexities with the music industry.
There's a lot of complexity. Yeah. I mean, right now we're obviously not talking to any major labels or anything, because, you know, we're a disruptor in this space. We're moving ownership to the people. So mainly right now we're talking to artists, producers, songwriters, and Stockholm is so good for that, because I think on the Billboard you always have like 20% Swedish written songs that are up there, you know. But yeah, that's mainly who we're talking to. We also talk to a lot of like independent labels and managements. Obviously, I mean, we have nothing against major labels, so I mean, who knows, in the future maybe we'll be able to move some of their rights to the people as well.
Incredible. I saw one thing, I think it was in your article, you were talking about how on that note that you're just saying there, like labels could almost operate more like VCs, and they could just sort of divest in a bunch of stuff that they've had incumbent in their business or in their operations for a long time, and go for something new. And so, as you're saying, it's not the enemy, it's just someone that you work with in a different way, and it's maybe changing how they think, right?
Exactly. And I think that, you know, they're always going to be needed, because, I mean, imagine if there were just platforms like ours. I mean, still, in order for you to sell these NFTs, people need to know who you are. And that's not everybody, right? So what labels are specialized at doing is basically investing in a lot of artists and creating a few stars, just like a VC. It's exactly the same thing. Now, I think that maybe they've gotten a bit too much ownership in the past, and I think that products like ours will maybe, you know, change that a little bit. You know, how large parts some labels end up owning, but in essence, I think we'll always need them. But they will also need to, you know, change how they work.
Totally.
Yeah, and speaking of that funding, funding VC kind of world, is it too late to jump on as an angel investor in Anotherblock? Like, is there any room for investors still? Or?
Yeah, I would say that right now it actually is too late. But at the same time, like, how we see it is the best way to become a part of this is basically to collect the NFTs, because you know, in essence, that is a way to invest in the project. I mean, it's not only like a part of the song and the royalties, but like, if you believe in the project, that's the best way to join the ride, I would say.
Makes a lot of sense. That's very cool. Okay, so if people want to do that, what's the best way for them to find out about the project and get on board with exactly what's coming out as soon as it comes out?
Great. I would say, like, follow join us on Discord. That's great. Also Twitter. And we obviously have all of the different channels as well. But I think that's, you know, if you're really into the space and want to learn more, that's maybe where you get the best information for now.
Gotcha. That's awesome. I noticed also the website's been slowly developing. When I first looked at the website a couple of months ago, it was very simple. And then now I kind of look back on it. Now it's got a cool scrolly thing, and it's doing more stuff. And I think there's maybe like an email sign up there that I assume you can maybe jump on and get more information too.
Exactly. Right? Thank you. I actually missed that. And I mean, we have the website as it is now is just a front, basically. Totally. Like we have a whole thing in development that's going to be launched when we launch. That's going to be. I'm very excited about that. We have some super good people in the product team working on it.
And the actual like product will be on Anotherblock.io when it launches.
Yep.
Excellent. Exactly. Yeah.
Gotcha. Incredible. All right. Any other questions?
That's definitely very exciting. No, I think that was really good. Yeah, no,
You're wondering, I'm drinking mate here, so that's why I'm sipping so slowly.
Oh yeah. No. All good. I really liked the article. So one thing from the article, like I really liked, if I could summarize you had the advantages there. So you had the key advantages of the building in Web3. You know, you got the global reach, you got trust, you got transparency. You had the DNA of Web3, which is the decentralized factor. And you had the metaverse.
Metaverse.
Which was interesting as well. Obviously not Mark Zuckerberg's metaverse, I think, So do you see that, like, obviously it's community building, it's the trust is the strength of the technology, the transparency is the use of the blockchain. Are those kind of your core tenets towards like Anotherblock? Like is that the columns that are holding up the project?
Yeah, I would say like all of like what's holding up the project is like a deep love for music, like like that is important. I think everybody, like, doesn't matter what you work with us, but if you're with us, you need to love music. And the other part is like to truly believe that, you know, it's good for the industry, and that decentralizing or democratizing ownership and who gets to own is like very, very important. Like those are the two pillars that you really need to believe in if you're to be a part of the team.
Amazing. That's phenomenal. Thank you so much for your time, Michel. Like, this has also been like informative for us, and I know everyone who's going to watch this in not long. Once we go live on the channel, I think everyone's going to really enjoy hearing more about you, hearing more about the team, and hearing more about the project. It's really exciting. We're really pumped to be a part of it, and we can't wait to see what's going to happen in the future.
We're happy that you are a part of it. Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you, Michel.